The Notre Dame Fighting Irish trying to continue their resurgence with a road trip to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. This game's 12 o'clock Eastern time on ABC. Notre Dame is about a 6-point favorite. First ever meeting between these two programs, which I thought was kind of interesting to have this game in Reynolds Razorback Stadium. It sounds like it's going to be a stripe out there in the environment, which is really cool. Great scene there. Very underrated atmosphere there in Fayetteville. I think you guys will enjoy it. You Irish fans that are going to check it out for the very first time. Look, they sit there at 1-2. That's not great, right? You also have to take into account who they played. You lose to two teams that are ranked in the top 11, 12, wherever they're at by a combined 4 points. I think a lot of people look at them and say, yeah, I don't know about Notre Dame. I think they're pretty good. I'm still a believer. Now they go into a hostile environment to face an Arkansas team that's licking their wounds a bit as well. They're sitting there at 2-2, but offensively, man, they are super dynamic. For Notre Dame, they have high hopes of making the college football playoff. This will be kind of their last massive test before things lighten up just a little bit, but SC does loom here in the coming weeks. And for Arkansas, it's an opportunity to kind of secure a massive win for Sam Pittman against a blue blood program on a national stage. Look, Marcus Freeman, he's great, right? I think he's outstanding. In his time as a defensive coordinator, his time at Notre Dame, super aggressive, very disciplined. But so far, it's been somewhat disappointing, I think, this year, especially on the defense side of the football. And then Sam Pittman on the other side, he's got to have it this year. There's no denying that. I think most people will acknowledge, yes, he led the Razorbacks to a 9-win season in 2021, but it hasn't been great ever since. They've had some highs, but they've also had some lows as well. I think this game, more so than just about any other this weekend, is a fascinating coordinator chess match, one of the best that we'll see. You got Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator for Notre Dame, working against Travis Williams, the DC of Arkansas. Then you have Bobby Petrino, the OC of the Arkansas Razorbacks, working against the DC Chris Ash. Now, for Notre Dame's offense, we know Mike Denbrock wants to employ kind of a multiple scheme. They want to operate with athletic personnel on the field. They're going to use a lot of wide receivers. They do have some tight ends. There's going to be some RPOs. There's going to be some things like that. And then the Arkansas side of things with Travis Williams, they do a pretty good job. They've adjusted their front a little bit. You see a little bit of adjustment from time to time now. They're not the traditional 4-2-5 that we've seen in the past, but this is a good defense, and they're going to have a good plan. I fully expect them to have a really good plan. Speaking of good plans, Bobby Petrino always has one. His veer and shoot system is one of the most entertaining offenses to probably play in, probably one of the most entertaining offenses to watch. They really create problems at all three levels of the defense, but it's really kind of based around running the football downhill and marrying it up with the quarterback run to the perimeter. And he's going to be going against Chris Ash, who has undergone a little bit of scrutiny here these first couple weeks, maybe some zone, maybe some things that haven't worked out quite as well. But the problem is his personnel hasn't played nearly as good as the personnel did a year ago. And some of those guys are the same guys. So really good coordinator matchup on both sides. Really good quarterback matchup on both sides as well. For Notre Dame, it's CJ Carr. He's been all you could possibly ask for. He's thrown to the fire. A couple very difficult starts against quality defenses, against quality competition. He's completing over 66% of his passes. Does have 5 touchdowns against 2 interceptions. But you have to be pleased with what you've seen from him. The reason why they sit at 1-2 is not because of the quarterback spot. Now, he's not the home run hitter on the ground that we've seen from Mike Denbrock's offenses in the past with Riley Leonard last year and then Jaden Daniels at LSU, but he is a very accurate passer, and here's hoping there's progress for him in his second career true road environment start. I think he can manage the offense, handle the crowd noise. He'll be very good in this matchup. And then on the other side, Taylor Green, there have been very few quarterbacks in the country that have impressed me more than what I've seen from Taylor Green up to this point. He is playing at truly an all-American level. He is a dual threat nightmare. Through 4 games, he's improved as a passer. He's up to 64% of his passes for nearly 1,200 yards. Does have 4 picks. That's the one issue with him. There is occasional issues with ball control, but his highs are higher than just about anybody in the sport. As a runner, he's off the charts. He's gone for over 360 on the ground on just 44 carries. So every time he takes off and runs, he's averaging 8 yards an attempt, including a couple touchdowns. He currently leads the country in total offense, averaging nearly 400 yards a game. John Mateer, by the way, is second at 351. So Green is first by 37 yards a game. That's pretty remarkable. So the combination of improved accuracy, winning from the pocket, hitting the middle of the field. Right now, his QBR is 90.5. That's fourth in the FBS. Injuries factor in this game. Leonard Moore, will see his availability because his absence was significant at times. He is one of the best corners in college football. He's incredible. So if for whatever reason he's not out there and more freshmen get put on the field there in the secondary, that is the thinnest position on the field for the Irish. They get young in a hurry. If Leonard Moore can't go, that's a huge problem. Devontae Smith, their nickel, is also a little bit banged up. And against a mobile quarterback that wants to run, having that guy there at the nickelback spot could be very important. Arkansas is down a couple rotational wide receivers in the DB or two, but nothing that's like outwardly significant at the moment. Question number 1. How will Arkansas's wide receivers match up against Notre Dame's newly problematic secondary? Maybe the most significant matchup in this game. And you might be able to make a decent argument that it favors Arkansas, which is a crazy thought given what we thought coming into the season, where Notre Dame's strength was supposed to be, and the question marks that were kind of within Arkansas's wide receiver room. But the addition of Omega Blake has been outstanding. He had 24 catches, 326, and 4 touchdowns, but he's not alone. You got Jaylen Brown, you got CJ Brown, you got Raylan Sharp. Arkansas has 5 guys that have over 130 yards receiving. So they have a bunch of guys that can be pretty effective in the event in which there's subpar coverage on the back end. The decline of Notre Dame's pass defense has been kind of hard to wrap your head around. It really is. They're giving up right now 289 yards a game through the air. That is 132nd in the FBS. They're giving up 7.68 yards per dropback. That is 121st in the FBS. This was a team that was like first in almost every statistical category as it relates to coverage and pass defense last year. They're now at the bottom, in the bottom 5, bottom 15 in several important categories. It's mind-blowing to think about. It really is. And Bobby Petrino, he's the master at kind of scheming receivers open and will cause a lot of problems for the secondary if these young, inexperienced defensive backs are forced to be out there for a very long time. Question number 2. If the secondary for Notre Dame is struggling, can the pass rush find some success? Because the pass rush is also an area that's been somewhat problematic for Notre Dame up to this point. Right now, quarterbacks playing against Notre Dame are holding the ball for an average of 3.1 seconds before the first pressure arrives. So I know that sounds like it's not that long. That's an eternity from a quarterback standpoint. The barometer is like 2.5 seconds. If the pressure gets there before 2.5 seconds, you got major problems. If it's over 3, you feel like you have all day to stand back there. And right now, they are 127th in the FBS in first-time pressure arrivals. That's mind-blowing. They're pressuring on less than 30% of opponents' dropbacks. That's nearly triple digits. That's 98th. They have just 3 sacks this year. And I think they've played some good O-lines. All right, I think A&M's really good. I think Miami's really good. So it can maybe be taken with a slight grain of salt, but I don't think they've seen a quarterback that is as dynamic as they're going to see this week when Taylen Green is on the field against this defense. Question 3. Can Notre Dame get the run game going? They have a couple of the best running backs in college football. And right now they're 70th in college football, averaging just 161 rushing yards a game. That's less than 4.5 a carry. Jeremiah Love is incredible. He's got 52 carries this year, but he's gone for just 284. That's about 5.5 per. Jadarian Price is awesome. He's obviously a factor in special teams, as we saw. But this group along the offensive line has not been playing as well as we had hoped coming into the season. It's supposed to be one of the strengths of the team, and it really hasn't been that up to this point. It's a veteran group. It's a talented group. And here's hoping that at some point they can get back to playing as well as anybody up front in college football. They're going against an Arkansas defensive front that's supposedly one of the bigger question marks and maybe doesn't have super top tier talent. So this should be an opportunity for Notre Dame to kind of get this rushing attack going. They need to dominate the line of scrimmage. They got to control the line of scrimmage. They got to protect their young quarterback, and they need to control the clock. Because I think in this game, time of possession for Notre Dame is significant. But here's the good news for Notre Dame. Arkansas's defense has not been good on third down. They're giving up nearly 45% conversion rate, which is 111th in the FBS. So if you want to control time of possession, you need to be good on third down. Right now, Arkansas's defense has not been. So if it becomes a track meet, that's an advantage towards Arkansas. If it becomes a grinded out, I think that's an advantage towards Notre Dame. Question 4. Which team can get a critical stop? Because right now, both defenses have legitimate question marks. Notre Dame's defense is in the hundreds right now. Total defense, 105th. Arkansas's total defense is 83rd. But against the two real offenses that they faced this year, Memphis and Ole Miss, there were a lot of big plays created. Notre Dame's given up nearly 33 points a game. Against real competition, Arkansas is giving up an average of 36 points per game. So this is one area that I think gives Arkansas a slight advantage, is that they actually have been able to pressure the opposing quarterback. They've registered 10 sacks this year. So if they can drop CJ Carr and kind of get Notre Dame behind the sticks, I think they got a real shot. Quincy Rhodes, it's a guy to keep an eye on. He's number 97. He's a handful. He's got 5 sacks by himself and 7.5 tackles for loss. So that guy by himself could be very impactful in this game. The pick might surprise you. I'm taking the Arkansas Razorbacks. I think their quarterback is the most dynamic weapon in the game, and I fully expect this game to be a shootout from start to finish.